Rev up your engines!
It's been proven that the more money a car costs, the less likely it will stop for a pedestrian. This was done at the University of Nevada, and they found that for every $1,000 increase in the value of a car, there's a 3% bigger probability that they will not stop for a pedestrian. The scientists concluded that rich people think that the rules don't apply to them, that they are more important than anyone else. They're not going to stop for a pedestrian. I see it all the time around here. People in Porsches, Jaguars, Mercedes, Benzes, they don't yield, they don't use their turn signals, but hey, they don't even yield for pedestrians, which is, of course, law. Cars are supposed to yield to people. And this even goes so far that in Washoe County there, in Nevada, the increase of children being hit at crosswalks. They're not even paying attention to that. And it's all directly correlated to how much money they have, the value of their vehicles. They've proven that you got a less likely probability of being hit by a Kia than you do by a guy driving down the road in his Mercedes looking at his phone and maybe counting his money. I don't know. It's not just an urban myth that people in expensive cars don't care about anybody else. It's a proven fact by statistics that they studied at the University of Nevada. Silver Demon says, Scotty, my girlfriend has an 08 Chevy Aveo. Was given to her a year ago. Has unspecified misfires, other codes, accelerator only works half the time. Sometimes it shuts or driving down the road. We're thinking about getting an 07 Buick Lucerne with 91,000 miles for 43. Should she fix the Aveo or just junk it and get the Buick? Just junk it. They're junk anyway. Somebody gave it to her. I'm amazed that it's still running with 161,000 miles. I've never seen one with that many miles on it. It was still actually driving down a road on its own power and wasn't being pulled by a tow truck to the nearest junkyard. Now, the Buick Lucernes, they can be decent vehicles, and if it's only got 91,000 miles on it, it is 13 years old. I would offer them 35 and see what they take, but definitely get rid of that Aveo. They're just rolling piles of junk. Shocked me that it won't actually went that far. Of course, it's falling apart now, but it's still going. Got to give them that. Bad Buick says, Scotty, my grandparents had a deer in their 18 Buick Enclave and had nothing but problems. Insurance covered the repair so far. They ended up buying a new car. I want to know, should I take it as a gift? If you don't have to pay anything for it, why not? But realize, depending on the size of the deer, they can do a lot of damage. It's a 2018 Buick, all computerized. And the guys at the body shops, they say they fixed it all. Problem with that is, body shops know body work. Generally, they don't know squat about electronics. So in all these modern cars, when I see them in big wrecks, they often have problems forever because the body guys don't know how to fix that. So they farm it off to some clown show place that doesn't charge you much to fix the electronic stuff, and it's not fixed right, and then they have problems forever. You get the car for nothing, what the heck? Drive it around. But if you have to pay for it, no. Let them sell it on the open market and just get rid of the stupid thing. Don't get involved in it. But if you get it for free, what the heck? Drive it. And if it really goes bonkers, then get rid of the stupid thing. There's all those electronics and the deer smashing into them, and the body shop, maybe it looks good, but they didn't do all the other stuff. It happens all the time. You don't want to get into a rat's nest. If it's free, what the heck? Drive it a while and see what happens. William Gwynn says, hey, Scotty, I got a 1996 Ford F-250 with a 7.3, 1 to 2 times a month. The overdrive button flashes, truck shifts hard, and my speedometer will slam to 0, and the odometer goes blank. When the overdrive light flashes, there's a problem in the transmission overall system. Could be a whole bunch of things. There's codes that set. But he says further down, every time he goes to get it checked, it's not flashing, it doesn't have any codes. If it was a newer vehicle, the codes would read anyways. It wouldn't matter whether it's flashing now or not, it stores them. But that's so old, it's a 96. And unfortunately, the only way you're ever going to figure it out without guessing, by having the scan tool hooked up while it's flashing because it's so old, it's 1996. On the other hand, you said your speedometer goes to 0. One of the most common problems is the stupid speed sensor on a transmission goes bad, and that'll make all that stuff happen. So just change the speed sensor. You can get something like that at AutoZone, put it on. That could fix your whole entire problem. If you really want to know what the code is, unfortunately, it's so old, you got to have the machine hooked up when it's flashing, because it's not like the newer cars that keep it in memory. And even if it came on in a 2006 or 2016 and then went off, when you put a scan tool on, it would keep it as a historical code, and I'd be able to read it as a mechanic. Clay says, Scotty's a 1993 F-250 extended cab 7.3 diesel, 4-wheel drive, a bad buy for $5,000 minus a windshield replacement cost with 128,000 miles. Title is theft recovery, no rust. All right, well, 27 years old. It's theft recovery. It was stolen and then recovered. Who knows what those guys did when they steal it and beat the crap out of it. Could be the transmission shot. Could be the engine was over-revved and damaged. If I were you, I'd just pass on. I wouldn't even think. But if you are serious about it, first, take it to a mechanic like me who understands diesels that has a Ford scan tool. You're going to need a Ford scan tool for that because it's a 1993. The modern OBD ones, that was before that. Because it could be after that theft, it's just not worth anything. And even though there's no rust on it, you might have to put an engine and a transmission in, which is a small fortune. And if you need to do that, $5,000, the thing isn't worth $500 if the engine and transmission is shot on it. Pulsar Next Cam says, I got a 1977 Mazda Rotary pickup. Two-rotor, the engine stumbles. I replaced plugs, didn't help. Haven't found any issues with the fuel system. Wow, a Dinosaur 77 Rotary pickup. That is a rare bird. It should be in a museum. Not driving down a road. Those rotary engines, they just flat break out over time. That's just how those things are. Odds are it's just completely worn out. You might just get a compression tester, check the compression. You'll probably find the compression's really bad because the apex seals inside the rotor itself just flat worn out. Now, you said you didn't find any problems with the fuel system, but that old Dinosaur has those insane 4-barrel carburetors. Odds are it's worn out too. I mean, if you have a mechanic look at it and say, yeah, the carburetor's all messed up and it needs to be replaced or rebuilt, maybe you could get that. But I mean, I would just say let it sit overnight so any fuel in it is evaporated. Then just put a compression gauge and take the compression test first. Because if the engine's worn out, there is no point in going any further. Oh, and the red said, is buying a used old or new Morgan car worth it? Well, if you're a rich man, you want a nice toy, and you like wooden cars, go right ahead. Realize that the main part of the body of those things are still made out of wood. I saw it in England. It's cool. They still got the old molds where they stretch the wood and bend it. Now, they do have lightweight aluminum frames these days. They don't have wooden frames like they originally did. But out of the bodywork, still made out of wood. So, you know, if you live in Seattle or someplace where it rains all the time, maybe not such a smart idea. And rather hilarious that they're still making them in England, right? Where it rains all the time and things would rot away. But they're very interesting cars, I'll give them that. I mean, if you got the money and you want to have a uniquely wooden car, what the heck? Go right ahead. Noah Sherman says, Scotty, what are your thoughts on engine block heaters? Are they worth it in cold places and actually reduce wear on a cold start? Thanks. Well, yes, they are if you live in a really cold area. I mean, here in Texas, total waste of time. We haven't had a single freeze in Houston this year, and it's almost March. So Alaska, northern Canada, Minnesota, you really want it because it keeps the engine warmer, so it doesn't have to go through big extremes of really cold to really hot, and the oil is warm. That's the main thing. Then it flows like that. Modern cars are all overhead cams. Cold day, that's going to be drier longer if the engine's really cold because it's got to pump that thicker oil up to the top. If you got a block heater, they're really handy there. I mean, they're a complete waste of time if you live in a place where it doesn't get all that cold. But in a cold area, yeah, sure, it's a great idea. Of course, it all depends on where you live, too, because a lot of people have houses with attached garages. The garage is heated, and the car's sitting in a heated garage, then you don't have to waste your time. But if it's out in the open, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Jerome's at it again, says, I got a 2013 Mustang V8. My engine cooling fan doesn't work. And I know a little bit about cars, so I unplugged the cooling fans. I set power and ground, and they worked. I checked the fuses. They're okay. The relays are okay. Help. What happens on those is the ground wire that grounds the cooling fan, they're kind of cheaply made. They corrode, and then they don't ground anymore. So check that first, because you did say you unplugged the fan and you put power and ground to it, so that shows that the fan motor itself works. Check the ground wire on the wiring harness that goes to the fan, and you'll find probably where it bolts on, it's corroded or it's loose. It's kind of a design flaw, those cars. Fans, of course, have to have power and ground, and if you find the ground isn't working and you fix it, it should go right back to normal. I see that happen a lot. I mean, it's not an easy thing to just guess at because you tried the obvious thing. But when the obvious things don't work, often it's a ground fault in a car. When they do crazy things and you start checking motors and they all seem to work, but then they do squirrely things, it's often a ground circuit because the grounds supply the end power to make the things work. And when they don't work, all kinds of weird stuff can happen. The LED lights could turn themselves on and off by themselves. I've seen all kinds of things when grounds go bad. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.